Hey everyone, welcome to the That Little Podcast, episode 72. This week we'll be talking about streaming services, the Blue Beetle trailer, E3 closing, and Blockbuster possibly coming back. So let's get into the episode, guys. Of course, today we had the Blue Beetle trailer. What did you guys think of it?
Loved it.
Loved it.
Pays tribute to the original Blue Beetle, which was from
Both.
which before Charlton had it,
Yeah.
and then Accord is all over it, man.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get Jaime, man. It was just fantastic. And if you're looking in that scene where they've got like the DNA strand thing, that hints at towards the what were they called the alien the invaders that Jaime was the scarab from that Jaime gets a hold of, which is different than the scarab that was originally the Egyptian one. They were precursors to an invasion. So
Mhm.
The Reach, right, or
the
something like
Reach,
that.
yeah, it was the Reach. Yep.
I was trying to think. I was like, there was a whole season about of Young Justice
On Young Justice, yeah.
and all that. I'm like, I know this somewhere in the back of my brain. It's somewhere.
Of course, you got what is it pronounced? Zelo? You know, the kid from who's playing Jaime.
I
Oh.
think it's
He's from
Yeah, he's from Cobra Kai, but I'm trying to pronounce
Yeah.
his actual real name.
I don't know if it's Zolo, Cholo, Zelo.
I think it might be Zelo.
Zelo.
Because I would have remembered if it was Zolo, because I would have known, okay, Han Zolo. But that doesn't pop into my mind, so
Yeah. Cast look good. Visual effects look good.
well, what James Gunn said was that when they reviewed it, it was a very standalone, tight story,
Mm-hmm.
and that they felt, okay, we'll dump a bunch more money into this and make it a good theatrical version. So you can actually see from like some of the photographs that were shot on the scene and some of the other leaks how improved the special effects are.
Yes.
I'm kind of glad because remember this was supposed to be an HBO TV show at one point. And the problem with the TV shows is we often end up with, inferior special effects because they have a lower budget. And this
Right.
was a character that needed to have a major budget behind
Major
it.
budget,
So,
yeah.
Especially this iteration of the character, right, with the way his suit works. Like you weren't going to be able to get away with some, cheap, low budget stuff. And that's one of the things that was really the standout of that whole trailer was the suit looks great. Like
Yeah.
from when the wings unfold and he cuts the bus in half, and the just the expressiveness of the mask, right, that they were able to achieve through it. It looks really, really good. So here's hoping it does well, right? Because
Yeah.
like it feels like it's divorced enough from all the other stuff that they could probably roll it into all the rest of the crap that they're working on. And since they're talking about Booster, right? Like it's not going to be Booster and Ted necessarily, but you could at least have a cool callback to the comics with having Booster Gold and Blue Beetle hanging out, right?
right. And
Right.
it could be interesting if they do like they said they were going to do and have not Ted, Booster around for a bit, and he'd been using time travel to amass this big fortune and stuff. He might have met Ted, knew who the Blue Beetle was, and then goes to try to meet him again, and then finds out who is this punk kid,
Yeah.
and it'd be kind of cool to kind of see him step it up and go, okay, well, I'm going to try to be a mentor to this guy. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
A flawed leader trying to teach a young kid who's just as wisecracking as he is. Man, I could watch that.
Yeah, it'd be great. Just all about the timing and execution, right?
Yeah, because you can have a great written script that looks good on paper, but if the actors aren't right, there's no chemistry
Mhm.
and the timing isn't there. You can tell that should have been a blockbuster and it turned into something,
Right.
not so great.
I
Yeah.
will say that the lead, whatever his name is, we need to learn that. I think he's going to be able to carry it.
Yeah.
I do
I
too.
mean, the other
I'm like-
characters in it were, his parents and his family and all that stuff were, good characters and everything. But I think he's got Well, I think he's got it. Whatever that it thing is, I think he's got it for that movie. I
You
think
got
he's
George
got it.
Lopez. Come on, George Lopez, man, going to play either his dad or his grandfather. I can't tell. But and any show that says Batman is a fascist is going to be great. And the hypocrisy of it is they're standing in Ted Kord's Batman lair.
Yeah, and they're actually if you look at it again, they're inside the bug.
Well, but Ted's not a fascist. Ted's just a capitalist, right?
No, he's yeah. There's a difference, right? Well, I think they find all of Ted Kord's stuff. I don't think I think the ship of the bug, they fly that, but I think that's his base that they find.
I think it's in a warehouse.
A screenshot where you can clearly see two of Ted's outfits in there.
Well, it's Ted's outfit and it's the predecessor's outfit.
The original
mentor Ted.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing is that if this succeeds, this could usher in a whole new thing about maybe them doing the Teen Titans or Static Shock.
Static Shock would be nice.
Yeah.
Now, I got to tell you, as you mentioned them, can't believe we got April. I think is it the end of April? So when the final episodes of the Teen Titans air?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that commercial where they said there will be blood. I mean, I know it's a spinoff because they're fighting Brother Blood, but I'm just wondering, since it's going to end it, are they going to kill off some of the characters?
Could be.
That'd be interesting.
Titans do tend to get short into the stick like that, so it wouldn't necessarily surprise me. But I don't think Beetle's not tied too heavily to the Titans, is he? I thought he was more Young Justice.
He was Young Justice, yeah. And then he met the Green Lantern a lot in the comics. There were several characters. Of course, he would be part of the Green Lantern. Those are your space people. You think his character would fit into that. But who else? He met several characters in the comics. So
yeah, I'm not up on my Jaime lore. I'll have to go and get brushed up on it a little bit better before the movie comes out. Because part of the trailer, right? And I was talking with my son about it. We were sitting there and he was like, Dad, I think that's the villain, not that lady, right? He's saying not Susan Sarandon, he doesn't think it's the villain. He thinks the one guy that pops up for a second in the trailer. And I was like, oh, you mean totally not Kraven the Hunter?
Yeah.
Because I mean that's the second he pops on screen, I was like, oh, it's Kraven
the Hunter. Yeah, and I'm like, wait a minute, no.
Yeah, I don't know who that character is or who he's supposed to be yet. I gotta go. I haven't looked into it, but yeah, that was just the first thing that jumped into my mind was, oh, it's Kraven. Huh. Okay.
Well, Susan Sarandon's character is Ted's wife, and she's taken over his corporation. We don't know if he's dead. We don't know if he disappeared or what. And it's, I don't know. I mean, I could see her being one of the antagonists, but you have her as a long-running antagonist, and you create another villain that maybe some guy who works for her was doing some reverse engineering. But that would be copying Ant-Man, because if you look at the original Ant-Man, that would kind of copy that. So I'd hope they do something different.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Maybe Sarandon starts off seeming like an antagonist, right? But just because she feels like maybe Jaime stole the Beetle or something like that, and then over the course of the movie, she turns into an ally against whoever this other person is that maybe she did set up to go after Jaime, but then realizes her mistake, that the guy's already on the warpath or something like that. I don't know. There's promise, right? Which is more than we can say that's been in there for a little while.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I was just looking at the list of upcoming stuff that they've now, released some of their list now, and it's pretty extensive, but we're not hearing any details on any of it. So,
what, DC stuff?
For the DC stuff, yeah, it looks ambitious.
I mean, it's 2 years out from everything, right? The weird creature commando thing I think is the closest thing, but outside of that, we're not getting Superman until 2025, right?
25, yeah.
So I mean, I get that they want to kind of keep people interested, but at the same time, I don't know how much it would hurt them or help them to kind of go quiet for a little bit, right? because of all the stuff that's been going on with Snyder, all the hate and all that stuff that's floated around. It's like I wonder if being a little quiet, just a little bit, not enough where you completely fall off the radar, right? Which is it seems like what they're doing, right? They're feeding out just a little bit of information to keep people on the line and coming towards them, but
Right.
not so much that the hate mob has fuel for the
Well, and
fire.
I like that Gunn is like, okay, anytime a rumor gets a little bit of heat behind it, he comes in and tries to shut it down. And that's what needs to happen because the rumor mill is horrible.
Yeah. Beyond that, I think David's got the idea right. If they're going to do another Blue Beetle trailer, wait a few weeks, let it marinate, and then nothing until after Flash comes out.
Like, because we got Flash, we have Aquaman, and Aquaman is actually what Gunn says is the final nail in the coffin of the old universe.
Mm-hmm.
But there's all this new Elseworld stuff they're working on too. We've got Joker 2 coming out. They're still writing a script for the Batman, the second one.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine that's going to go into a quick turnaround once they get a working script that they can agree on.
Yeah. Have to. I mean,
well, I heard that Gunn's reworking the idea of Clayface too, because I saw something about that.
Yeah, I've seen a couple posts on that. I don't know how much credence to put into that just yet.
Get my hopes up. That's what it is.
Yeah.
okay, so I just went. I looked at the cast list, and apparently, totally not Craven the Hunter is Carapax the Indestructible Man. I've never heard of this character ever, so I'll have to go do some.
Hey, ow, look, you calm.
Carapax the Indestructible Man. That's got to be a temporary place. If that
No,
that's a mouthful.
It's a character from the comic. So
I don't recognize the name.
Comics Carapax, apparently.
That is so not that.
They had a similar character in Young Justice, but he was green.
Yeah, I'm looking through screenshots and there's stuff of him fighting Ted. So he's apparently been around for a minute.
You sure that's not Crimson Dynamo?
No, different. Marvel would be a little bit upset, I think.
Again, another Marvel not wannabe.
Character. Yeah.
Quan Chi.
He's Craven, not Craven. Crimson Dynamo, not Crimson Dynamo.
I mean, right here, he's punching through a wall, coming after Ted. No, curse you! I am not a thing. I am a man. I am Carapax, the Indestructible Man, and you will be screaming my name as I slay you.
He should have hired a. He
needs Jesse Jackson.
What do you call those people who help you come up with promos and they
an agent?
No, not an agent. The guys who come in and once you mess up and they rewrite everything for you to try to give you a whole new image in front of the population.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Rebranding.
Well, no. There's a name for these people that do this, and I can't remember. They even did a whole kind of thing on that in Archer, where their reputation of the spy agency was so bad they had to bring this agency in to promote them fighting bad guys that weren't really bad guys, doing commercials and all this other stuff to try to bring money in. Firm, a PR firm.
Okay.
Yeah, he needed a better PR firm.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's his character arc, right? He's just in search of PR firm. Cord Industries was apparently offering that for a short amount of time before it kind of blew up on them. And then, he was in the middle of doing his rehabilitation when the whole thing crumbled and they had to throw him out of it. And so he came after him. Maybe that's his backstory.
That's his backstory. He's, it costs money to be a good, decent criminal now, and to have a good PR firm,
So we want to get.
So what would his sidekick be named? Ain't he tough enough?
I don't know, something the Tarnished Boy or something. I don't know.
Well, the other one's indestructible, man. So it's got to
Well-
be just up underneath that,
Uh,
Oh, shit.
Pliable Boy. Oh well, that's a total different.
no, that's come on.
Almost indestructible. There we go.
Semi-hard. No, that's not a good one. either.
Wow,
I don't know.
now you're
Boy,
getting
oh boy, what are you gone Catholic on us?
Hmm.
starting to get into like rawhide territory with that.
Hey, that's another one. Rawhide. Come on, Rawhide.
Oh man, we'll have to brainstorm this and we'll pitch our
Yeah,
our
we'll have
idea.
to come back. Yeah.
We'll see you later. Be like, hey, we liked your villain in Blue Beetle. We think he needs a sidekick that is coming for revenge in the sequel, and we got the perfect name for you. We'll workshop it. We'll brainstorm it. We'll come up with something good. We'll get a little sketch of a costume going. It'll be real snazzy.
Oh, it'll be sketch, all right.
Yeah,
The
and we could call him like
indestructible
something like maybe
replacement.
Impact Wrench or something like that. I don't know.
All right, so we want to
Okay.
get to E3 stuff.
Yeah.
Save us, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
All right, so of course, last week they announced that E3 is going to be canceled officially, completely now, because they canceled it last year. Not
Insert laugh track here.
Yeah.
Or crowd roar.
kind of sad, but did see it coming. Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony had one pulling out of all that stuff so they could do their own press conferences. So it's kind of sad seeing these things that have been around for a very long time. E3's at least, I think the first year was 95. So you're almost 30.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad. It's one of those things that I know that I almost had a chance to go and just couldn't get a plane ticket out there to do it. Something I always wanted to go walk the floor, test out games, just to experience. But the closest I've ever gotten to that was going to be PAX South. Yeah.
Mm.
It's really a lot of this stuff, right? I was reading a person who was talking about just the change in cultural touchstones that we have these days, right? Where like midnight movies used to be a thing. Now going to a movie screening at midnight isn't so much a thing because they have showings starting at like 8:30, right?
On Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah, on Thursday you got screenings, in the early evening, leading all the way until midnight to the next morning. It's like it's not a thing anymore that you go and I mean it's positives and negatives, right? You don't show up and fight for a seat somewhere, or show up with a group of 5 people, but you're running late and now you're interspersed all over the theater
All over the
trying to find
theater.
that one last remaining seat, but between the one person who smells kind of bad and that one little kid that won't shut up the entire time that you're just trying to watch this movie, right? So it's like there's that positive for it that you can now register your seats, but you don't have those moments anymore. And this is just kind of another one. But like you said, it's been a long time coming. I mean, Sony and Microsoft have been pulling out for years, right? I mean, a couple of guys, it's been a while since they were even there. So it's been a slow death, but it's been on the horizon for a minute.
The last one they did was like 2019, right?
I think so.
Something like that.
Yeah, I think so. Because the other two they did after that were all digital. I think they had small amount of people on the floor. It was only press. I don't even think it was open to the public. But it's sad. We have been slowly losing a lot of these things, and this is one to go down the pipe. But we still have CES going on, every year. Of course, I don't think that's going to change for any time period for the foreseeable future. But yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to bring it up because I mean it's something I've followed for a long time.
Well, I think we're going to start seeing it happen to Comic Cons. We're going to start seeing it happening to a lot of things because they've gotten too big, to happen too often, and it was unsustainable.
Yeah, Comic-Con will be the next one to watch. And then, of course, things like NAMM, because they become so commercialized now that everybody and their dog is trying to jump in on that. Comic-Con used to be about the comics and the movies and everything related to comic books. Now it's,
It's pop
TV
culture.
shows from the CW, and I don't give a rat's ass that freaking like One Tree Hill is still showing up at Comic-Con. Don't care.
Well, and on top of that, it's not as big of a deal to really go, again, with the invent of with the onset of the internet. You don't have to be there now, right? Like I know I'm guilty of it. It's like Comic-Con and all that stuff. Oh, the Marvel panel's going and everything. It's like, man, I'm at work, yada yada yada, whatever. I'll go and I'll watch the trailers after the fact, right?
Yeah.
It's like it isn't so much as these big events anymore. You know, like another big one is like video game releases, right? Like people used to hang outside video game shops, and like I saw someone a while back. I guess it was around the time, it was around the anniversary of Halo 2, where it was like a Best Buy, and somebody showed up dressed as like Master Chief, and they had a bunch of soldiers with him, and he like was walking in a box, right, and taking it into the store, pretending like he was like delivering Halo 2 directly to all this giant cheering crowd. It's like you just don't have those experiences, and it's a changing of the times. It's a just different culture that's slowly growing up around these things, and I mean it's only going to keep changing, right?
Well, part of the problem was, like, say for the movies, and them keep extending it out further past the midnight show and all that, is they're trying to capture that early money, because they need to get that money so they have a good box office opening weekend, because everything now is about opening weekend, and so next thing you know, they're going to start releasing it like during the week, Wednesday, so they get that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday box office.
Well, Mario's coming out Wednesday this week.
Yeah, I mean, we're already at that with Wednesdays.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be new music was on Tuesdays, new movies started Thursday night. Now it's whenever.
Yeah, I want to start a movement that says, bring back the old midnight movies, make them back for what they were originally for, put the cult classics back in the theaters again.
Well, you got the Alamo Drafthouse that's still doing that.
Well, yeah, they do.
Yeah,
but that's about it.
Yeah, but they also sell beer, which helps.
Which kind of
that's for the really bad ones.
Well, no, some of them are pretty good. I mean, like the Draft House by us is pretty nice.
Yeah,
and they have beer and everything. Same thing with like the Santikos Theater, Silverado out there off of
well, the one there was San Antonio.
There's one in San Antonio. There's one here in Houston. They serve food, big theaters. They can house a lot of people in those, and then you can have drinks in there. So, but which this kind of segues into the fact that what our main topic for tonight is, but I want to kind of segue into the Blockbuster thing about them coming back. How I'm curious how they're going to implement this, even though I know the nostalgia is going to be the key for that success.
Right.
But I could see a rental market working, but I don't see it working for video games. Not new games, because it takes too long to download, install, get them set up. I mean, you can't just pick up a game like you used to and go home and pop it in your system and just
you
play
gotta
it.
download everything now.
But a movie, you can get a Blu-ray and pop it in place. So there's definitely an avenue for film being used for Blockbuster. But
I mean, as long as I think was it Colin mentioned Redbox? There's like all around here, there's still red boxes.
Oh, yeah.
Even in Walmarts, you still find red boxes. So there are people still renting. And Blockbuster was all about the atmosphere and the event of it. Everybody Friday, man, that place would be full. You'd think it was a singles bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just we're so inundated with streaming services, right? Like once upon a time, it was Netflix, right? Like that was the big boy on the block. That was the thing that you had to go to. And now all of these companies want in on that pie, right? They don't want to be, just leasing out their material to somebody else to make the money on. They want their own services. So now we went from, just Netflix and maybe Hulu to, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO Max, Peacock, Paramount Plus. I mean, there's
Apple Plus,
Apple
man.
Plus, Amazon Prime. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and
Yeah.
on and on.
And on that note, they don't all carry the
same
stuff. They
program.
might, the new releases on any of those. Apple Plus is a little bit different, man. They're pumping out shows like I don't know where their money's coming from. They got a lot of big name actors doing a lot of shows,
It's their
but
app.
like Netflix, a lot of their new stuff is foreign films.
Or animated.
And then okay, guess what's back? And they'll put something back and they keep moving things out of circulation. You're seeing that same thing happen on HBO. You're seeing it happen on Prime, where the stuff that they keep on their library is stuff that everybody's seen and nobody wants to watch anymore. And they're slow to put in the new things. Some people just want to watch a movie or the newest thing. So you're going to go rent that instead of paying for a service that you might take years to, I'm just exaggerating there, but might take a long time for you to actually see that show up on their service.
If you're
Well, and
lucky.
well, and beyond that, right? It's sometimes you don't know which of the 80 million services something's on. Like you'll think to yourself, you'll be like talking to somebody and say, "Oh yeah, there was this movie I saw on, I think it was Netflix. Yeah, it was Netflix. I saw it like a couple years ago. It was a really good movie, and here's the title for it. It's like, okay, let's go to Netflix and go search it up. Oh, it's not on Netflix. Well, maybe it's on Hulu. No, it's not on Hulu. And and then you got to go Google it, and then you go Google. It's like, oh, it's on Vudu and Amazon Prime, but you need a subscription to Shutter to watch it. It's like, well,
Yeah.
what the hell am I doing? Right? It's crazy. So and there's some people that don't, they come to that realization of they're not that plugged into entertainment, right? They're not the people that don't sit around and watch TV 24/7, and they don't want to go surfing through 80 million pages of content. There's a thing I want to watch. That's what I want to watch. So yeah, having a place that provides that service, right? To just say, hey, here's a big, thing that you can come in and a lot of choices to go pull from and just come in, walk in like we used to do. Just walk up and down and be able to look at the faces of things and not have to scroll through all this crap and be able to pick up the box and flip it over and read it, not have to worry that it's going to instantly kick you into a trailer and then suddenly you're watching the show before you realize it and you're like, wait. I don't even know what the hell this is yet, right? Because I know that kills me on Amazon. It's like I'll flip down to something. It's like, okay, I'm trying to read the summary and then it like kicks off into a trailer. It's like, no, I don't give a shit about your trailer. I want to go read what this is about. Then I'll decide if I want to watch your trailer, right?
Yeah.
Like
Or
this.
Netflix will do the same thing with like,
Netflix does.
they'll
They'll
just
show
start playing the
everything.
thing for you.
Yeah.
But what cracks me up is on that whole same thing. If I'm tired, the best way to fall asleep is to go start clicking through movies to figure out which one you want to watch. And by the time you hit like 50, you're like, I just put this down and I'm gonna go to sleep. And never have watched anything. I've actually cleared my house out when my grandkids are here and everybody's like, okay, let's watch a movie together. Like I'm trying to click through and figure out something, and they just one at a time stand up and walk off. And then I'll finally find something. Hey guys, I found something. Come on, they run in. What is it? Oh, we don't want to watch this. Okay, I'm back through it again while they go off to wander throughout the house. The other problem is, remember, they were supposed to be the solution to cable. Cable, 250 channels, all showing the same thing. Here your solution is streaming. What's happening now? It's
Now
no,
it's 50 million services that don't show anything.
yeah.
You got to go hunting through all of it to try and find it.
Yeah. Well, or if you have a VPN service, you can just select a different country and then, hey, look,
And yeah,
movies that I didn't know were on my thing that I wanted to
yeah.
watch.
You want to go and see what is really in Netflix's library? Go switch your VPN to another country.
Yeah. But I mean, you went from, at least cable had a search function, right? Where it would be able to search itself and go find it. And now you basically have to go to the internet and pray that Google's up to date on where, because I know there's been a couple movies, like some of the more obscure stuff that maybe I've heard about through somebody doing a review on YouTube or something that I want to go check out. I'll go look it up. It's like, oh, it's supposed to be on this one streaming service, and I'll go to it and I'll go search for it, and it just got taken off maybe the week before, and so okay, well, does it exist anywhere now, or do I have to keep fudging around to try and find it? And what's funny is, that's where we've talked about it before, where like physical media is so important, right? Because there'll be times where it's like we'll be sitting around in the house and the kids are like, oh yeah, we want to watch whatever this movie is, and they'll go try searching for everything and they can't find it, and I'll just turn to them and be like, you do know that we have it upstairs, right? They like just go up there. It's in all in alphabetical order because your dad's a psychopath, and just go find it, and it's fine.
Oh, be like me. I used to do it by actor, and then I
Oh,
started doing it by genre.
I just do it by
Oh.
genre.
No,
Like,
the only split that I have is TV shows, right? So all of my movies are in alphabetical order all the way through, and then you hit TV shows, and the shelf where all my TV shows are at the top, it starts all the animated stuff, and then as you get towards the bottom, that's when you start hitting the
the
live
live
action.
action.
And I will say I do group them, at least the TV shows, I'll group them when it comes to animated stuff by, here's all the DC, here's all, here's like the Marvel, and then here's the Nickelodeon, because that's where all my Turtles and Invader Zim is, right? Like, and I'm sorry, it's DC and Warner Brothers, or so like Cartoon Network. I'm sorry, it's DC, Cartoon Network, Marvel, Nickelodeon, and then whatever the hell comes after that.
Mhm. I mean, Colin, what's your take on?
Well, you guys have all brought up great points. I mean, if another case in point that we can add to all of this is the Disney bringing stuff in and out of the vault.
Oh yeah,
Okay. Now, a lot of people have the old movies, and we mentioned earlier today in the chat, The Rescuers and stuff like that. If you want to find that, chances are you're not, the streaming service may or may not have it. Disney Plus may or may not have it. If you know somebody who's got it on a physical copy, can you borrow that? But if you go to a Blockbuster,
mm-hmm.
your chances of finding it are going to be pretty good.
As long as they've got they're well
There's no
stocked.
copies of it. Yeah,
exactly. It's going to come down to how much they're going to be able to lean into it, and whether or not they're going to, define their market a little bit more, because they got oversaturated just like everybody else does.
Well, remember back in the day, some of the video stores bought a license
Yeah.
and then would burn the movie themselves, and you'd have, they could license so many copies and then they'd rent those out. And when they were no good anymore, sometimes they sold them if they were an original copy, and if not, they just trashed them.
Right.
That all changed now. I don't know, because licensing and copyright and IPs is all getting crazy.
All right. So now here's the question that I have. There are going to be people who are going to want, and I can relate to this because I'm having to deal with media issues right now. There are going to be people who want physical copies, but the more there's the modern age stuff where people have their phones and their smart devices and their whatever. Is Blockbuster going to be able to offer up, say, because you can do like a 3-day rental or something like that, where you can download something like the library sites online. You can rent a book up to
and then
X
it locks
time,
it out after a set
and
time.
then after that, it's no good. And you can easily do that with movies as well.
But if they want to do that, though, the problem with that is that there's no difference between that and then just doing it with streaming service.
Exactly.
Where you get off work, you're like, okay, there's some new movies that came in, maybe some old stuff. I'm gonna go browse for a little bit, then I can take it home to my kids, and then you have it there and you're good to go. And then you don't have to worry about rewinding the VHS because it's all DVD or Blu-ray or Blu-ray.
Right.
And then go from there. And actually, that's the thing, is you could do DVD. DVD is a good format still. It's not got the greatest quality, but it's still going to be viable and everything, and easy going to be able to collect enough films to be able to rent out to your consumers.
Right.
So,
especially with the way that places like Walmart and Amazon can go and have these $5 bins with tons of the same movie in it. You know, who's to say a Blockbuster can't come along and go to Walmart and say, okay, we'll work out a deal with you. We'll buy X amount of these movies or this what
They
you know.
still would have to get a license, because the way that works
Yeah.
is you can buy something and own it, but you can't play it for people and charge them
Right.
for it. Which is crazy, you know.
So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of questions that I'm hoping that somebody from, you know, if Blockbuster's coming back, I would like to hear, you know,
Their game plan.
their game plan. Like, have their board, if they're going to be back, who's their board? Have them do a press conference. And E3 for them would have been fine. You know, if they're going to come back, where, you know, how are they going to do it? It's going to have to be something with enough presence to let people know that they're back. Because if they just go and do a press release, it's going to be up to the different news agencies to say, okay, yeah, this is a thing. Oh, no, that's okay. You know, there's a great documentary called The Last Blockbuster. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it on.
Okay.
It's on
Great documentary. It's about how the perseverance of this one town and this one lady said, we're keeping Blockbuster open. And now they've got movie memorabilia in the store and everything like that. It's a fantastic documentary. And it's like, it's the model. If they're going to come back, they should use this from this one remaining store.
I'm trying to remember. It's either on Prime. I know it's not on Netflix. And I think it might be in Prime on the the documentaries.
It is a fantastic documentary, and it is by far a really good way for them to use as a blueprint. You know, because the fact what these people did, it was their store, and they bought into the franchise, and just they managed to keep it alive, and they go through all the trials and hardships that they did with it. Absolutely worth watching.
I don't know how they're going to do this. You know, Blockbuster began hurting. That's why they brought in the games.
Yeah,
that helped keep the stores open. And I would love to go be able to rent a game, play it, and see if I really like it and want to own it. You know, and as long as I don't want to own this, but I want to play it until I beat it. You know, I paid the money for it. You know, that's okay. And then, but then, if you get towards where it's this after you rent it enough and it costs you the same amount that it would cost you to buy it, just go buy the thing.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, because what is it on video on demand? The prices for renting movies on video on demand is getting up there. And so when you're paying over $20 to rent a movie, because they're like, oh, well, most people are going to watch this with multiple people. So we're going to calculate what the cost would be if a family of 5 were sitting and watching it, and they're wanting to charge this amount. You're so close to the cost of $59. I'm going to go and get it. Or, you know, I miss the days when you could find movies for $19, you know, or because they came out at like 19, or they came out at 25 or 26. And you go and you can buy them at Best Buy and get your films, you know. And then after that week sale, the first upfront sale, then the prices started to go up on those, and then the prices of the newer stuff came in at a lower price. So you were always having somebody come in on that Friday or Thursday picking up all the new stuff.
Yeah.
Now you go into like a Best Buy, you go into Target, you know, you get sticker shock, you know.
Well, and that's the thing, is the price point has to be just right for the consumers to even want to consider doing something like this, you know, and for however long you're going to have it available for them to be able to rent it out.
Right.
And then what do you do about people who take it, rent it, and then disappear on you? You know, a lot of them started making you register a credit card, you know, to rent, and then you immediately limit who you're going to be using, you know, having for your clientele, because not everybody has a credit card.
Well, and it also is going to have to depend too on like where you put this. You're not going to be able to put this in like everywhere. It's got to be in certain demographics. I think the best test bed for this would be like at schools, colleges, you know. So that way, you know, kids can go, hey, I may have like $5 go run down and rent a movie because maybe they don't have the money or the funds to have a subscription service. And especially considering if like Disney gets their way and Netflix and stuff make it to where they have some kind of check that makes it where only one person can have a subscription service and you just can't give it out to anybody else. This may be a viable solution, especially considering what Netflix is like $21 a month now.
25, but I still get my free
Yeah.
CD or whatever.
And then you have like
I'm grandfathered in, so I still now if I ever let it lapse, then I'll lose because I used to get 2 free Blu-rays or DVDs or whatever the rentals were and at a time. And then once they went with their last upgrade, it went down to 1. And then so I pay for my streaming and I pay for the other one. And I'm just old fashioned because sometimes I just like sticking that thing in the player and watching it.
Yeah. I mean, and that comes to the whole thing too, is that right now we have a tons of streaming services. I don't know how anybody pays for all this stuff to be able to watch whatever. You have to be selective. And I don't even know if they're making enough money because Disney's coming back with all their stuff about how they're not getting the numbers. So it's like,
and when I looked at some of that, one of the problems were that they were finding these streamings were that people, when something's coming out that they want to watch, will pay for the streaming service for like 1 or 2 months. After they've seen what they want, they drop off.
Yeah.
And if you were smart, you would string them along. I'm not trying to tell them what to do. Like say with Star Wars, every so many months you introduce something new, so people have to keep that subscription up because if you give them gaps in it, it's going to go away, and they want to become the next network. Remember, the only reason why the networks lasted, they gave you every year a brand new streaming of serialized stories. Friends, Law and Order, and all of these things had 22 episodes, so you had those running, and people were always watching them. And then while that was going on, you were producing new material.
But you also had tons of stuff in syndication, right? To where, like Law and Order has been in syndication forever, right? So Law and Order episodes just run perpetually, and there's so many of them at this point. You could sit down and watch one from 5-6 years ago and might not have even seen it just because of just the sheer glut of that content that's out there. But I mean, the problem is that a lot of these companies, right, are trying to do that, or they were trying to do that of pumping out material consistently. But it's not like it was before. It's not just sitting down and having a set and shooting a bunch of people in front of it. Now, especially with the Marvel stuff, if you're trying to do, or I'm sorry, the Disney stuff, you're trying to do Marvel and Star Wars, all that's very VFX heavy. And so now you've got this humongous bloated budget of a show that you're trying to maintain and pump out, at season after season after season of over the course of the year to keep people on the hook to want them to maintain that that membership in there. But at the same time, you can only maintain that for so long before you start seeing kind of what we're seeing, where you've got burnout or they had to rush product. And once your product starts going bad, man, that cord cutting starts happening even faster. Because it's like, why am I paying?
It's a snake eating its tail. It's a what is it called? Man, I hate when I get on here. My brain goes to mush. When you have where your benefits start dropping, it's not you no longer benefit from it. It's forget it. I'm not even gonna try because I'll remember it faster if I don't try. But remember, it's a lot to do about our patience and our we're always being bombarded with stuff, so we have this real short attention span, and we're always looking for the next thing. I don't know how many people I know that start off with a series and then don't end up finishing it, because they've gone on to the next thing. But back in the day, MASH ran 11 years, Gunsmoke ran over 20.
Simpsons.
Even into the early 2000s, we had 10 seasons of a show was a good run. Now they say 4 is a good run. 6 is a good run. If you got 7 seasons, man, you were fantastic. No, that's not it.
So someone should have told them on Supernatural that 10 is, or however many of the seasons they have.
Five was good where you needed to stop with that. But no, I mean, but it goes back to what I was talking about earlier, where you have this lack of a cultural touchstone, right? Now you can curate the information that comes to you down so minutely that it's like, because back when like Dallas and all that stuff was coming out, right? Like everybody was watching that crap, right? Whether you really cared about it or not, everybody was watching it because everybody was talking about it. And now you have to hope that whatever new show you're putting out is the next, Haunting of Hill House or something, where it just hits that zeitgeist and everybody's watching it. Like that's what you have to try and hit for, but not everything's going to land with that, because
and some things have to percolate a little bit longer. They got to have it depends on the type of burn that you're trying for in your story. If it's something that has to play out over a long period of time for it to really get to that heat, you've got to understand who your audience is, because if you've got a younger base series and you're applying, wanting that 18 to 29, they're out partying, they're out doing things. They're not going to be the ones sitting in front of a television. They might not even, have the attention span to do that, because there's a video game over here calling them. Oh man, I haven't finished that. Or I want to go do this,
David.
So
what? No, look, I have a monitor right here that my Switch is hooked up to, and I have a projector right there that goes up against that wall over there. So I'm able to watch a show while playing a game, and so I multitask. It's fine.
Yeah, multitasking is fun. I do that all the time.
So what just happened on the game? Oh, I haven't been paying attention to that.
No. That's why whenever you're doing that, you can't play anything that's too narrative heavy.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
which goes back to my attention span. It has no meat to it. It's all superficial baloney, And the again, Disney kind of caught on, because Disney was falling into the same trap that some of these other, where they dump the entire series for you to binge. You don't help yourself. When I can go in 24 hours and watch the whole season, I'm out of there till the next show you put on. But you put it on once a week, like they did with Mandalorian, and how HBO has been handling The Last of Us. They've learned something that networks knew ages ago.
That streaming
service, if you do a good show and you got good writing, the audience will be invested in it and will come back that next week, and it'll become an event for them. And we know that was still happening, because it happened for shows like The Walking Dead. It happened for The Walking Dead. I'm just going to use that as my example. But everybody came back, and it was that water cooler event. Everybody watched it. Some people might have just watched it because everybody at work was watching it, and they didn't want to seem like a fool when they were trying to talk about it. The other thing is, technology is so much better than back in the day. We can do pretty good special effects on the cheap. On people do it on their own laptops. So you got to wonder where this cost is that they're complaining about, that we got to keep budgets low, and
well, there's managers to keep management over everything, and they cost a pretty penny, don't you know?
Yeah, those VPs, man. The ones that get those $2 to $7 million sign-on bonuses and stuff, as long as they stay there for 2 years.
I think it went downhill when we started paying actors $20 million per film, because immediately you had to have a film that was going to be able to pay off that actor up front. First 2 days needs to pay off your one actor. You get 3 or 4 big name actors, and you're ballooning up to 200-300 million, before you start adding in the special effects. And back in the day when I was a kid, you had movies like A Bridge Too Far that had all the big name actors beating down the door to act in the movie for free because they knew it was going to be something big and people were going to want to watch it. And they knew it was going to be advertising for them. So they would come in and you'd have all these actors who might get a 10 to 15-minute part of the film and they'd chew it up with the best acting they could do because that was their way of increasing what they made per movie. And we went to this whole big blockbuster thing, and big blockbusters cost a lot of money. You got to pay a lot of people.
Yeah.
Diminishing returns. Back to what I was trying to say a minute ago and couldn't remember. There are diminishing returns on these things.
Well,
And
I
you have
wonder,
to figure out how to get around that.
I wonder, there was a lot of films that did poorly in the box office, but didn't get their audience until on television or at the movie rental. And it's like
Or late night at the
Late night,
drive-in. I mean, at the drive-ins or the midnight
Right.
movies.
so
We have a drive-in up here that does super great on the weekends.
there's one by Dad, or at least out right outside Dallas.
Yep.
Um,
It's a 2-hour drive from me, so it'd be kind of
yeah,
4 hours to go see a movie. I don't know.
but it makes you wonder, the generate like my generation, the ones just after me, like David or stuff like that. There's some people that I feel that they're they got a taste of what good movies were, even though they probably weren't good movies back in the day, as far as like the reviewers and the just regular audience going to see these movies, like The Thing, and how we sit there and badmouth movies that that actually may have a decent premise, but they just don't fit our standards. But those may become the blockbuster hits that like what we coveted.
But they don't become blockbusters. They gain a classic film heading or a cult film heading, and they make money over time because because of that following, they get re-released. They get special releases. They get ones with extra footage, or then they get a director's cut, or you get this. So the studios are still making money off of something that they should have quit making money on a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I always say when a film says they didn't make any money, let's go back and look at where they are in 10 years. Because if it was a good film and it had a good following, maybe it came out before its time, it probably did better in rentals and movie sales and other things than it did in its theatrical release.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's not even what the studios, go out and say anymore, right?
Not
I mean,
anymore.
like what we were talking about a few episodes back, where you were saying that you thought that Wakanda Forever was going to hit $1 billion because of re-releases and all that. It's like, I mean, it could possibly one day hit technically $1 billion, but I mean, the studio right now in this moment can't tout the fact that, hey, our movie made X, right? Because that's what they've been feasting on for so
That's
long.
because they've been ruined by billion-dollar movies, and
Right.
that's what they expect. You know what? That's not sustainable.
Yeah, but you start having caviar every day, and then you have to have something else. You kind of like, this isn't as good as the caviar I had before.
I had a
Yeah.
friend, and I'm not gonna name names, but was always broke, always borrowing money, couldn't pay his bills, had a child. But, and the reason I'm gonna say this is because Vince brought up caviar. You walked in his house, he had fine wine and caviar in his fridge. And I was like, if all you can afford is bologna, you eat bologna until you can work your way up and you can eat the nicer stuff. You're going straight to the caviar, but you're sacrificing everything else. You can't pay your bills, can't pay electricity, but you've got high taste. You don't have the funds to meet it. But who's hurting? Your family. And I used to get so mad at him, you know. And that's the thing. Their expectations are no longer realistic because they've had a taste of it. We could go back easily, rolling things back because, eventually we're going to be set, it's just like the Back to the Future had the best analogy for this, and that is a $50,000 Pepsi. at some point it's going to become so expensive that it's ridiculous and nobody's going to want it. You're not going to be able to make it. And then we're going to be stuck with these inferior products that they're trying to mask or to trick people into, you know.
I mean, and some people think that, we're already hitting the beginning of the course correction, right? We're starting to see the hero fatigue and all that stuff, right? And I don't know how much of it's real yet. There's still so many factors that go into all this that it's kind of a big question about it. So it's kind of curious to see how things move along, because it's like anything, right? You don't quite realize that the sea has changed until you're already in it, right? And then you turn and you look around and you're like, oh crap, we're in, no one really realized we were in the superhero movies, golden age, before all of a sudden we're halfway through phase 2 necessarily. And it was like, oh wow, we've actually been here for a minute and just didn't realize it. So I'm curious what the shift's going to do, what things are going to look like moving forward, because you're right, it's completely unsustainable, and they're seeing it. And now that a lot of the free money that was laying around out there for everybody to scoop up for the longest time is drying up, they're already going, we talked about it last episode, there's already a lot of change happening, there's layoffs going on, there's cost cutting going on. Like, you can't just go out and make movies because you feel like it anymore. Now you have to do it with a little bit more drive and purpose, and we'll see what that actually means for the industry, if it'll turn around and start generating some real passion projects that will lead to great movies again, or if they're just going to double down on the blockbuster insanity. And the fact that Disney just announced today also that they're going to do a live action remake of Moana doesn't exactly encourage me for the it doesn't really give me a lot of hope. It just seems like, oh no, we're going to double down on the nonsense, and there's going to be another live action movie that I'm going to ignore with every fiber of my being, because it should not exist.
Well, that's because Hollywood is bankrupt of ideas, and they're reached that point where they think they have to resell us something that was a hit before. Well, they're going to bank on, if you just change it a little bit, they'll buy it again. Every time I've watched a movie lately, I'm like, okay, I've already seen this plot. This has been done by somebody better, and sometimes for less money. We've talked about this before. If you have a lot of money, that doesn't mean you're going to have a superior product, because sometimes you have stupid money. But sometimes those projects where you have to be creative and you have to find new solutions, that's where that innovation comes from. The guy who's making $1 billion a film is not going to change his formula, but a guy who is making between a $20 and $50 million film and is gaining a little, notoriety because he had to do things to draw people in. He had to be creative on his special effects. Alien, they cut back on Alien because they were afraid of the man in a suit syndrome that had been around since the 30s. Basically, Alien was a man in a suit, but it looked good, and they followed the Jaws method. Give you just enough of it to make you terrified and to intrigue you to want to see more. Less is more. It always will be, especially in certain types of movies.
So with the streaming service, we moved away from cable because cable was super expensive. And now it's like you have to have all these streaming services to
more expensive to get,
which now is making cable cheaper than what the purpose of why you did it. So I don't know how many people can afford that. And it makes you wonder how many of these streaming services, once people decide to start cutting back because they can't buy groceries and other things, because they have to manage their time and money better, who's going to fall? So my question to you guys is, if this happens, which we can see it happening, which streaming service do you think is going to fail first? Probably this year, or within the next maybe 1 or 2 years?
Which studio or streaming service?
Streaming service.
We know that HBO is in trouble. They're already planning on rebranding it, and they are going with less scripted show and more reality TV and more of like what David was talking about, syndicated programs. That's not going to draw your audience in.
No.
Who was it that just acquisition bought out MGM, which is one of the largest movie libraries in history, and they barely show 10% of those movies. There are a lot of old movies that people would love to see. I don't want to see, you know, one of them recycles Star Trek, all of the movies, then pulls them, all of James Bond, pulls them, and then another one. And then eventually, within a month, they're right back where they started, and here comes all the Star Trek films. No, I know they're trying to play into the fan base and hope that the fan base is going to watch it, but eventually I'm going to get tired. If you don't have any new product for me, I'm going to drop you, go to somebody else, give them my money for a little while until they start doing what you're doing. But I think HBO is going to be one of the first. Paramount, I was thinking it would be Paramount, but somehow they've got more money now, so I don't think they're going to go away yet. I don't think Apple's going away at all. I think they probably found the library of Scientology where all those billions of dollars are hidden, and now they can make anything they want.
David?
It's
Colin?
Disney, man. It's Disney. When you can charge what, $1,000, $1,100 for a phone, and people are going to go line up and get them
every 6 months. Every 6 months, you're going to go buy a brand new phone.
The people or their money. That's all there is to it. There's no secret to it. There's no, all the time there's a new something, and I could care less. So I don't know. As far as what streaming service could fail, I'm really curious as to see if Iger, he's in charge now.
For now,
Iger
is Disney.
If he keeps doing all this course correction and stuff like that, is the streaming service going to take a hit?
It already is.
Well, I know, but I mean, as far as like they're cutting back and
losing
stuff
customers
out.
Yeah.
Right.
Are they going to start? Are they going to start jacking up the prices to try and offset it, or are they going to start saying, okay, no, you don't get this much with this plus package?
I think they're gonna tier it, just like the streaming services, just like the internet did. You're gonna buy tiers. You'll buy one with commercials. You'll buy one.
Oh, they'll go the Hulu route.
Yeah,
with one thing, and then you're gonna get one that gets all the premieres for free. So you're gonna buy this service. Oh, because all the movies are gonna within 30 days will go from the theater straight here. So I'll just not go see it and see, that's them shooting themselves in the foot because, I'm going to wait the 30 days. I won't go see it in a theater. I'll watch it at home, but I'll pay $70 a month for the streaming service for it. Mm-hmm. It's penny wise, pound foolish on both the customer and the business. So I just don't know how they're coming up with the business models they are, because some of them just don't seem profitable to me.
Yeah. David, what do you think?
I mean, when I think about streaming services, the one that I always am shocked to know that it still exists, mainly because it's a part of the whole Disney package, is Hulu, right? I mean, I know there's good stuff on Hulu, and I just, almost everything that's on there, I feel like is everywhere else as well. So like, that's the one that I don't know how they keep afloat for as much as they are. And
that's already on tiers.
And how Disney doesn't just absorb it and nix the name, because I don't know that they necessarily need it. So
I don't know if Disney owns the IPs for some of the contracts that Hulu has. Just because you're part of a deal with a company doesn't mean that that other company owns those IPs. That's the whole argument about the Snyder and Batman and moving the Snyderverse over to Netflix. And I love Hulu. I came to Hulu late. I came to Hulu because of my grandson, and but I don't know many of them where that you can go on and watch an entire 12 seasons of something.
I mean, like I said, I don't have any problem with the service. It's
And it's
just
not expensive either.
no, it's just whenever you hear people talk about streaming services, right? I mean, because you do have all these others that have, very specific shows that you can only find on them. Hulu is always kind of the odd man out of almost everything,
Mhm.
right? I mean, out because when you start talking about anime, right, and all the anime that's on Hulu, it's like, yeah, I can go. Like, I went and started watching the new Trigun the other day. It's like, yeah, I can watch it on there. If I wanted to go pay for Crunchyroll, I could also go watch it on there as well. It's like, so again, like so much of what's on there, I feel like exists on other platforms, and because of that, it's kind of a second thought for most people instead of being the first one on the top of your mind whenever you're going to go look for something. At least I know it is with me, right? I mean, other than the fact that, the last Predator movie was specific through there, right? It's like there hasn't really been a whole lot that's Hulu centric and specific that really stands out. I know back in the day they had, their own TV shows that they made, like what The Path, I think was one of
They
them.
had TV shows and they had exclusive movies that they funded. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've kind of moved, and see that's a thing of somebody seeing where things are headed and adjusting their business model and finding a niche. And that's kind of what Hulu did. Then Crunchyroll came in and the other who was the other animated channel that you could watch like
Funimation.
Dragon Balls and every Funimation
Information.
had their own channel too.
Yeah.
You know,
You also have I think it's Anime Crush.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So I mean, there's different avenues to watch anime. I mean, to me, I agree with David about Hulu because you don't hear the hype about the TV shows that are on there. Not like what you could get on Amazon or Netflix or Disney. And the only time I went to go watch something on Hulu was because of History of the World Part 2. That was it. I mean, everything else I could find on other streaming services. So not saying that it's a bad service, but when you're I can go to any other service and not have to watch commercials. Yes, I know it makes it towards cheaper, but I mean, I got away from cable, so I didn't have to watch commercials. It's like I pay for YouTube Red, so I don't have to watch ads on,
wait a
on
minute.
YouTube videos I watch.
They convinced Americans that you had to have cable to watch channels that were free. All your local channels you were paying for to your cable company.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And they were free. There's like 52 channels out there that are broadcast for free, and yet they are part of every cable package out there, and they charge you $10 to $15 for them.
Yeah.
And originally, the model behind that was the only way the cable companies would be allowed to stream in certain markets is if they included the local package.
Local channels, yeah.
And that was on a lot of law books and stuff like that.
That was
See, I was a crazy person, and I didn't have cable, and I stuck around with just the local channels through the rabbit ears into the little digital converter box that we had to get, all that nonsense. So it was well into the life of that digital converter box swap that we had to do before I eventually started actually having enough money to go get cable and the internet and all that good stuff.
But you had to if you lived in an apartment.
Yeah.
Because your rabbit ears wouldn't work in a freaking apartment.
Not every apartment.
You have your child hang on one antenna and balance himself halfway outside
Out the window.
Yeah, no, okay, stay there. That's it. Okay,
third story.
That's it. Don't move.
Clothes hanger on a pole.
Yeah.
Used to take clothes hangers, bend them sideways and make them look like a dish, cover them in foil, and stick one in each side of the rabbit ear at the top because they always broke. And you could twist them, and it looked like something out of a sci-fi movie. Whenever I figured out that I could take the very cable antennas that when they would come out and put them on my house, and then when I cancel my service, I'd be stuck with all these antennas all over the top of my house. You can go buy the kits to convert them to receive those channels. And I did that. And then I didn't need my cable box. And you know what was great? Those would drop when a storm came, but I was still receiving the regular channels.
Yeah.
We've been sold this thing about convenience that's really not convenient, and the only people who profit from it are the ones who convince you that it is.
Yeah.
Um,
So I mean, and I guess to round this out for the podcast, if Blockbuster came back out, would that be a viable option for y'all to maybe do that instead of some of the streaming services? Because at the moment we all have to have internet, so we pay that bill, and then we have to pay for the streaming services. So like I said, we're paying well over more than what you would if you just had cable.
and then they convinced us to buy, you had to have Microsoft internet, or you had to have PlayStation game internet to
Not
be able to.
internet. It's their online
They're right, but
play
if you buy a
pass.
game, but you want to play with other people, guess what you got to pay for?
Yeah.
You know, so they're always, it's Chris Rock and Leo, Joe Pesci had it right. You in the drive-through.
All right, guys. Anything else?
No.
All right. Well, everyone, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned for episode 73. We will be doing our review of The Last Ronin. All right, everyone. Later.